All right, welcome to the second episode of Mostly Lifting Stuff. We are joined today by Evan Conover, Oakland University nursing student, former bodybuilder, biggest arms in the gym.
I'll take that, yeah.
Self-proclaimed, though. I don't think anyone else says that, but definitely self-proclaimed.
Oh my gosh.
You got my vote.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on, guys. So,
Of course.
what do you want to start with? What are we going to talk about?
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you started with your lifting?
Well, for me, I started when I was in middle school, and my dad would buy like little pieces of equipment for our little garage gym, and it would slowly like piece it together. And by the end, like I had a full like Olympic weight set, 225 weight bench dips, pull-ups, and like mats and everything. And just because I played basketball and was trying to be athletic, through my younger years, and through that I like adapted to weightlifting and stuff like that to be a better athlete. And then when high school hit, I started training more seriously and like started at like an actual like commercial gym and stuff like that. So that's how I started getting into lifting, was through basketball and wanting to be a better athlete through sports. Yeah.
I think you were a little bit ahead of us in that, because I feel like we both kind of got more serious about it once we got to college, because we didn't see the benefit as much in high school.
Yeah.
Like we did it, we knew it would help, but we didn't know quite to the extent.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit last episode. Just like we didn't really see the results in high school, or like the point really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Garrett did a little bit more than I, but it was just a later start. So it's kind of nice, talking to you about how you got that effort in at the beginning, and then you slowly changed into doing the bodybuilding, right?
Yeah, for sure. So even as a young age, like I always saw like pro athletes, or like Arnold Schwarzenegger was obviously a huge influence. I'm sure all of us can agree to that, but you see that and you're like, oh man, that's awesome. Like I want that like body, I want that physique, like that looks incredible. And you like idolize that kind of physique. So that was an influence for me as well. But no, yeah, that stuff definitely pushed me and made me want to be better. But and as far as your guys' education, when it came to lifting, like I didn't know anything at all when I first started. So like, I literally remember going to my neighbor's basement, and we would literally do 5 sets of 20 reps with like the lightest weight possible. And this is like literally in like 7th grade, mind you. So it would be like, we literally have like, 80 pounds total on the bar and just repping it for 25 sets. And it was actually great, because we weren't gonna like, damage our like ligaments or tear a tendon or something. We're not pushing like crazy weight. It was a great way to get a foundation for lifting, which I think a lot of people skip that. They skip that whole block of training.
I was going to ask too, you said your dad got the equipment for you. Was he into weightlifting, or did he just kind of want you to go towards it?
He knew that I liked it, and so they supported. That's one thing my parents have always supported me with. Anything that I've like shown interest in, they're like, okay, yeah, that's awesome, like get after it, like here, let's let you go. They want to set me up for success. So he wasn't necessarily a big lifter himself. He played football when he was in high school and everything like that, but he played like nose guard, like was a guard and stuff like that. So like in terms of like lifting and regimen and stuff like that, he just supported me. He didn't necessarily like tell me what to do, like step by step or anything like that,
Okay.
So after you got this foundation, with the lighter weight and whatnot with your neighbor, when did you start figuring out like how to do certain things, or where you wanted to go like with lifting?
Well, when I really made the transition into being a very serious or more serious weightlifter, it was either my senior year of high school or my freshman year of college, because I had stopped playing football to focus. I just wasn't truly enjoying it anymore, and so that was a big reason. I was like, well, I still want to be in shape. And then actually I was I got the lead as a football player in my high school musical, so they was like, okay, you have to be like bigger for that role and stuff like that. And someone who already lifted, I was like, all right, just give me more of a reason to get even bigger. So that kind of motivated me. And then actually at that point, one of my teachers actually like also lifted, and so he kind of showed me what he did, and I worked out with him and like got in the weight room with that. And that's how I started doing it. But when I transitioned into college, my freshman year, I wasn't playing sports at all anymore. I was a big basketball player too. And when I wasn't doing that anymore, I was like, well, I still want to be in shape, and I still want to like feel good about everything. So I was like, well, I'll just take this weightlifting and be more serious about it. And then like I really hit my stride and like put on like a good amount of size in that first year for sure in college. Yeah.
Okay.
have you always been, because I know you did some bodybuilding, we'll talk about that a little bit, but has that always been the style that you lifted with, was sort of like the hypertrophy type of training, or did you go through a phase where you want to do more powerlifting, or how did that kind of play out?
I think hypertrophy was 100% always the goal for me, but I would see how, like, okay, it makes sense. Like, you see someone lifting more weight, they're going to be stronger and therefore have more muscle mass. So, like, that drive to squat heavier and to deadlift more, like, definitely had an influence on me in my freshman and sophomore year of college, where I was like, okay, I can do 315 and, like, really get after it. And plus, there's something, like, really, like, empowering to just feel like you're ripping that weight off the floor. Like, it feels like badass. It makes you feel really good. You know what I mean? It's like endorphins are being released. It feels good. But as you train more and up the frequency, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to do it 3 times a week now, eventually, like, your central nervous system, your CNS, just gets, like, overwhelmed, and you start to feel like crap. Like, you just feel terrible when you're doing it, and you have to listen to your body and know when to dial it back. Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something I've gone through too, where you have to, a lot of people don't listen to their body enough, you get caught up in bro science, and they think, more weight, more reps, just, they think they can just exponentially increase their training and just make these huge jumps, and that's not the way it works, and you just wear yourself out so quick.
Yeah, but you can't just, run and gun. It's a lot of, like you said, like, listening to yourself and just knowing, like, okay, maybe I should tone it back for a week or two, and then you come back stronger and get after it next time. And it's just a lot of making sure that you don't get hurt, because then you're really out of luck.
Yeah, and I think we've progressed as like a society almost in this sense, because even like the highest level athletes, they're not just training like super hardcore all the time, like just lifting super heavy. Like, you see these athletes come out and they have these like smarter plans. Everything's about training smarter, getting the most out of what you're doing and preparing for your sport, whatever it is. And I think that's kind of pushing the bro science out of the picture a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, I would 100% absolutely agree with you. But mind you, like, I was coming from a place of like, okay, if I work harder and I up my intensity, my arms are going to get bigger, my chest is going to get bigger, my shoulders are going to get bigger, whatever it is. So I would apply that style of training, and I would do that with those big lifts, where, like, if I'm doing bicep curls or something like that, you can train biceps 3 times a week, so long as you're not pushing it too hard and you're not gonna like tear yourself up or do anything too bad. Whereas if you're like literally deadlifting like over 3 plates 3 times a week, like, you're gonna feel that a little bit more. And I found that out like more the hard way, because I didn't have like necessarily a coach telling me, okay, you should do daily undulating periodization, and you should do training blocks where you have deload weeks, and you should taper off and do all these things. Now that I know that, but at the time, you don't have access to that necessarily, and you don't know any better, and you're like, wow, I feel absolutely terrible right now. I pushed myself too hard, which is like a good problem to have, I guess. It means you're not lazy, but the consequences of your actions can be great if you take it too far and you don't listen to what your body is telling you.
Right, and that's like the same thing with, people will say, oh, like, why are you wearing a belt when you squat? Because if your lower back's strong enough, you don't need that, blah, blah. Why are you wearing wrist wraps? It's like, if you ever dinged like your wrist or something, it's like, it's pointless to be not able to train because of something that simple.
Right.
So that's like my thought process is, if I'm not healthy, I'm not going to be able to train. So I need to do what I can do to keep myself healthy, so I can keep doing what I love to do.
Just prevent it in the first place. That's all about prevention. I mean, I use wrist wraps for pretty much everything, because I know, like, if I don't, my wrists are going to hurt the next day, and then it's just going to add on and add on and add on, and then you're really screwed. So.
Well, that, and you see like the ego lifting and stuff like that, and everyone thinks they have to be the hoss of the gym or the alpha of the gym, and like, well, I have to put up the most weight because I'm the biggest or whatever it is, and that is not a good road to travel down. I mean, like, I've relinquished that, and I've let that go like a long time ago, where it's like, okay, like, I know I'm not going to be, putting up the most weight anymore, but like, I'm able to train the way I want to train, and I feel good about the way I look, and to me at this point, like, that's more important to me than pulling like a 500 pound like deadlift or something like that.
Yeah. And I think everybody kind of finds that like a maturity as they go. You kind of go through a progression where, you become advanced in your list to the point that you want to see what your body's capable of, but then on the flip side of that, you start to realize, all right, I can't do it like this forever, because lifting really heavy weights is not good, as you know, in the big picture, it's not going to be good for your body down the road.
Oh, not at all. For your joints, for your knees and your hips and your wrists, like Austin was saying.
Yeah.
And so that even more so supported my want for hypertrophy and for things like that, because okay, I can scale the weight back, and I can make the exercise super difficult by tightening up the form and making sure it's absolutely perfect. Or, it's really just about manipulating the variables. So whether it be the amount of weight you're lifting, the frequency, the volume with which you're lifting, the tempo with which you're lifting, adding extra like forced reps or partials and things like that, that keeps my training fresh, so I don't feel like I'm doing the same workout every single time. If you change those variables, you can make a workout really, really hard without really straining like your wrists, your joints or ligaments or anything like that.
How long was it you were into lifting? I guess after you finished high school, and so you said you got more serious once you got to college. How long was it before you started to work your way into bodybuilding?
Well, that first year, my freshman year of college, really is when I started and that's when I would go on like bodybuilding forums and like get more information than I ever had access to prior to that. Is like seeing that stuff, and a big source of information for me was Lane Norton. He had a lot of free programs online, and I would see how he structured his programming, and even more so, I saw how he structured his nutrition and how it fits your macros and IFFYM. And that stuff is when I really had my breakthrough, and like that and the support of my parents, like be like, okay guys, well I need like 10 pounds of chicken for this week, and they're like, are you serious? I'm like, yep, I need 10 pounds of chicken, like let's go, let's get it. My dad was like, all right, let's grill it up, and so the ease of access to of having all that stuff so much easier, like to not have to grocery shop and to not have to worry about food, like literally I could like sleep in as late as I wanted to, especially in the summer. Like that's when I made the best gains, is like, okay, I can sleep in as late as I want. I have no stressors, so like my cortisol was like non-existent. I didn't have to worry about anything. I had like 1 or 2 summer classes that worked like 2 days a week at Outback Steakhouse, and I had all the food I could want. It was just like a perfect environment for growing muscle mass. So like I would go in and crush it. I would sleep. Like I remember I would literally come home, rest for like 30 minutes, get a nice nap in, make a huge meal, and like go on with the rest of my day or whatever it was. But like that was my ritual every single day, and like to be able to do that now is not nearly as realistic, and it would require a lot more dedication and a lot more sacrifice. So,
Right. Yeah, because I think people might be working a 9 to 5 and they're thinking, why am I not seeing these results? And it's like the people that do this as a job, that is their job. Their job is to lift weights for so many hours a day and to sleep so much and to eat so much. And if you're only hitting, 1 or 2 out of those 3 variables, then there's just not a chance.
And we've all talked about it. I know quite a bit about, you go on Instagram and you see all these things, you're only seeing, half the picture. Like you said, if you work a 9 to 5, you don't have the time to put in like these other guys. And these other guys, they post videos of them doing big things and eating food, but that's literally like, that's all they have. That's all they do. So it's just a little bit different. And especially like you said, you had the time back then, and like now it's a little bit different because, we're, getting older and getting jobs and whatnot, but it all kind of just depends on circumstance too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your priorities shift as you get older, but let's say you are, a sponsored athlete from, I don't know, any brand really, like Optimum Nutrition, whatever it is, like you're the poster child. Like your job is to, create content and to work out and to create videos and use the brand and, have a certain amount of posts per week, and like that's what your job is. So everything is centered around lifting, and it makes it a lot easier to hit all those goals and make sure you're hitting everything you're supposed. Okay, I'm getting a proper amount of sleep, I'm hitting on my nutrition, like the meal timing is perfect, like I can go to the gym whenever I want. Like if you don't have any of those things that are like kind of like roadblocks, it makes it a lot easier to make gains and to see results. Whereas now it's like, okay, I have to study for a certain number of weeks or a certain number of hours per week, and like I have to work and pay bills and I have rent and everything else. Like it's not as realistic. And it's a good point that you bring up, Austin, is like we see these things on Instagram, especially in the fitness industry, of like 30-day shred challenge or whatever it is, and they make these like posts, and for the average person who's getting into fitness and they see that and they're like, oh, that's inspiring. Like, I want to do that. I want to try and do that. And then, they try to adhere to these crazy diets that are all about crash dieting and like, okay, they'll lose like 8 pounds in a month or something. And, as soon as they're kind of lost after they finish that 30-day challenge and they're like, okay, well, now what? And they go back to their old habits and they rebound to exactly where they were before. Right. And they crash. It's like a crash diet, and they're just going to yo-yo back and forth with it. It's super unhealthy.
It's not sustainable. That's the problem. People get caught up trying to follow a model that they can't work into their daily lives, and that's why it's such a struggle. And I think the people who are sponsored athletes, I think they deserve a little bit of credit just because they've probably come a long way on their own before getting to that point, and I'm sure their schedules are like pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like fitness is your job. You got all the resources you could ever want. Like you would be able to make something good out of it. You'd like to think. So.
Definitely, yeah. Because if that's what you're going to be doing, you got to make it work, or else you're going to be out of a job. So you got to keep it going and do the most that you can for yourself, or else you're going to be SOL.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to take anything away from the people that have dedicated like hours and hours and hours of their life to building their name and building their brand and creating a following for themselves. Like, that takes a lot of time and effort. And for me personally, like, I don't have a problem with people using Instagram as a means, as a business tool, because in this day and age, it's how you make your money. I mean, how many people are literally like fitness models through Instagram? And they do a sponsored post and they probably get paid, whatever amount of dollars off it. Like, good for them. You worked hard for that physique. You worked hard for that body, and you deserve recognition. I don't have a problem with that.
The problem is that too many people are using those people as measuring sticks for their own expectations, and that's where they're really hurting themselves and giving themselves like this negative mindset, because it's very hard to attain what these people have attained, and they commit a large portion of their life to that, and that's why they're able to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And to kind of go off of that too, I mean, people they also don't realize what's realistic for them and what's not realistic. And another side of it is like there might be some, extracurricular things they might be using or taking that would give them an edge, that allow them to be leaner for longer or provide more muscle mass for them and things like that. And they look at it, and that person, that sponsored, Instagram person who has a brand behind them can't talk about those activities necessarily because they'll lose their sponsorship. So they're selling this dream and this fake ideal that is not realistic for the casual lifter who's just getting into whatever it is they're doing.
Right, because the moment they come out and they express that they're using something or taking whatever, they basically are alienating themselves from the average Joe that looks at this person as something that they can get to. They're like, oh, well, now that I know this person's on such and such, like, I'm not going to be able to do that. So what's the point of even following them and, like, using their workouts and stuff? Because people see that somebody's taking steroids or whatever, and they totally are just, like, line in the sand, like, nope, that person is, I can never do that. That's the reason they have everything they have. Like, it's tough for that person because they're trying to fulfill their job the way that the company wants them to, but at the same time, they're totally alienating these people by doing the things that they have to do.
Right, and I actually didn't necessarily think about it that way, that, they'd be alienating them in that way, but, like, I think there's something to be said about being honest with other people, and, like, I feel like it's all about, okay, new PRs and more pictures and all that stuff like that, and I feel like it is, it definitely can overdo it, at least in my opinion. I don't know. What do you think, Austin?
I mean, I've definitely fallen, prey to looking at people on Instagram and thinking, oh man, like, that's what I want to look like. I don't know if I could ever be like that. That's just going to take so much time and this and that. But, it's just like a nice thing to, go back on for yourself. Between now and when I was a freshman, I've definitely put on a lot of weight and look a lot different. So I kind of got away from looking at other people, and I just like look at myself, which is what it should be about. So, and along like with the whole, using and alienating people, I think it could go both ways, like you guys both a little bit talked about. So it just all depends on like that person's mindset and how they view lifting and how they think that it should be done and whatnot.
I also think that as soon as someone claims that they have used literally everything will be taken away from them in the sense of like, oh, well, they didn't have to work hard for it, or it was all steroids. Like that's how they put the muscle mass on and everything. It's like you are so ignorant to think that that's how that works. Like that person still busted their ass every single day, still ate all that food and adhered to all that cardio. Like the level of perseverance it takes to sculpt yourself into that physique is unprecedented. And okay, average Joe who's like shit talking, like you have access to the exact same thing, do it, and I guarantee you wouldn't have the same success.
Right, and I think I used to watch some of Rich Piana's videos.
Yeah,
because he was probably one of the most open about actually talking about stuff.
Yeah.
And like he said he's like, people think, oh, it's just steroids, and he says, I see so many people at the gym every single day that are taking all the steroids that you could take, and they look like garbage. He said, because they think that the steroids is the end all be all of what these people are doing, and they don't see the 8 meals a day and getting the right amount of sleep every night and lifting weights for 4 hours a day or whatever it is. It's like people see these Olympia bodybuilders and they're like, oh, steroids.
Yeah, and and automatically that like strips them of everything they've ever done. It's like it's so ridiculous. It's very much a catch-22 to either be honest with people or to just keep it to yourself. I mean, to me, I wouldn't have a problem with it if they didn't confirm or deny it, but they didn't try and make people like. The thing is if they claim natural, like if they like, no, for sure, 100%, I'm a natural lifter, like no matter what people say, and it's like, well, that's really interesting. How did you put on like literally 30 pounds of muscle mass in like 6 months, dude? Like that's not humanly possible without a little testosterone. Like, come on.
And the problem with that too is that even like the natural bodybuilding shows, I've seen videos talking about it. You have these people that are testing as natural at the bodybuilding show, but their whole training cycle, they can be taking something and then they stop, a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, for that to be out of their system before the show. They test as natural. They go on stage with these other people that may be actually natural, and it's like, it's not even a comparison. You can't even compare these two people because one went through this whole training cycle and was taking all this stuff, and then like how can you regulate something when you can't test everyone every single day?
No, you're absolutely right. Like a lot of these quote unquote natural bodybuilding shows, the person could be training enhanced the whole way, and they just take like a shorter ester, like a bond shorter, and it'll be out of your system, if you stop a couple weeks beforehand and they cycle it with a PCT, they retained all that. It's not like that muscle deteriorates in a week. Like they hold on to all that size and that separation, and okay, their cardio's on point, their diet's on point, like they're dry as it can get, and they look amazing on stage compared to a natural lifter. It's like night and day. It's just not even a comparison. Like it's just not close.
So when you did bodybuilding, did you see a lot of people, around, because you were probably training at some sort of like bodybuilding type gym?
Sure, yeah.
Did you see a lot of people around you that you could tell were on other substances, and how did that affect your training?
Well, to be honest, a lot of people like physically like in the gym will be honest with you about it, and it's not really that crazy hard to see the difference between person A who does it and person B who does. Like, the biggest thing is there are more androgen receptors in your traps and in your delts. So if someone just has like ridiculously oversized shoulders, like that's a pretty good telltale sign. If they're pretty young and they're balding, that might be a pretty telltale sign. If they have a lot of like acne or acne scars, now granted some people have bad acne like through, their puberty and everything like that, but like if they're like an older, like in their 20s, and they have like cystic acne all over their back, they're probably shooting a gram of test a week, man. Like it's not rocket science, but there's some freaks who just like actually like can train naturally and look that way. So it's not like there's a foolproof method, but I think there are like little things that will be a telltale sign. So as far as how it influenced me, it definitely, like, I wanted to learn more about it because I just am a science-minded person. Like, I like understanding how the body works. I liked understanding how that would affect, like, the body. And to me, that was like, okay, cool. So, like, how would you do it if you were going to do it? And, like, okay, so I would talk to so and so at the gym who, like I said, people like to talk about that. They're not. If you show that you're like a pretty big gym lifter or whatever, they're more than willing to tell you about it because they're just so excited. They never get to talk to anyone that knows what you're talking about. So and they'll tell you, I'm running this, and this, and I'm planning on doing this. And so I would just love to pick their brains and see how they ran what they were doing. You know what I mean? It just was interesting to me, but it didn't really affect my training so much because I knew that I was a natural lifter, and I was like, well, I don't really have interest in doing that. I'm not gonna be going home to my parents and like trying to like do this. Like, there's just no way. It wasn't for me.
Yeah, I definitely think if you're at a gym and you see somebody that's on, steroids, whatever, SARMs, I feel like sometimes it's kind of nice to have, to see somebody who's out beyond what is naturally like possible, because then you can kind of like motivate yourself to like, obviously you can motivate yourself to work towards it without like knowing that you're going to do the same thing. I don't know. It just kind of is nice to have somebody like the bar is set pretty high.
Yeah, and what's even more exciting is there's some people that will just go up to you and assume that you are using, and they'll start telling you about whatever it is that they have going on, and you're like, in your head, you're not gonna just like blow them off, but you're like, well, I'm definitely not, and I look better than you, so that's pretty awesome. Like in your head, you're thinking that. You're not gonna say that to their face because you're not a dick. But it's like pretty like awesome to know that like, okay, I'm pushing myself beyond whatever this person's genetic limit is because of my work ethic or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm. So what was your first prep like?
Oh, for my first prep, well, I had a little bit of help from the one of the trainers at Fitness 19 where I was working out at the time, and like he helped me. Like we would do like a workout once a week, but as far as nutrition goes, like I handled everything on my own. I did If It Fits Your Macros. I bought a food scale. I was super regimented, and like I used the Lane Norton cutting. Like he wrote, like he had like a whole write up on like ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. Like, okay, so this is how you find out like your average calories to maintain. Okay, so you need a caloric deficit of this amount, and it should be like a ratio of this for proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So by using that information, I would track and I would look in the mirror and I would see where my body weight was, and I would see myself like shedding, and then when it came closer to it, I would add in some cardio. But for me, it was more difficult for me to add size than it was for me to cut weight. And when I was eating at that, with the ratio, like I was eating very high protein and like moderate carb. Well, I guess for some people it would still be high carb, and then a certain amount of fats. Like I think it was like 65 or 70 grams of fat or something like that. And so I was never really stupid hungry through prep. Like I planned my meals well. I mean, I wasn't the most shredded person on stage by any means, but for it being my first show and for doing my diet completely solo, like I think it was pretty good. I was impressed with myself. I was happy with it, and I turned 21 during my prep. And I didn't drink, I didn't cheat, I didn't do anything. I think we went out to Outback Steakhouse and I had like a filet. I don't know.
So what year did you do your show? And, along with like the prep, you said you did start doing cardio and things like closer. Like what did it take to like actually get prepared, in like the week or two before?
Okay, so the week or two before, it was definitely an interesting experience because, you start getting like more and more strict with yourself. And I was doing high intensity interval training. So I live near like the high school of where I was at. So I would just go to the high school like 3 times a week, and I would probably do like, I don't know, 6 to 8, like 30-second like all out sprints on the track, because that's what I was going for. I was just trying to hit that that like just fat burning, you know what I mean? And there was evidence at the time, again through Lane Norton's research or whatever, what he put out, like that it would be easier to tap into those fat storage if you were to be doing that. Plus I was at a caloric deficit. So that's how I was doing my cardio prior to it, plus my workouts, which I dialed back to like, I was probably doing 70% of the weights I would have been doing at the beginning of prep, just because to be, I'm not going to be putting muscle mass on at the time. Like, There's no reason to be trying to hit max lifts. That's just, unless you're Ronnie Coleman, I guess you can do it. But.
So what do you think is the one thing that most people look at bodybuilders and they don't realize? Like, what do you think is like the hardest, like the most difficult part that people kind of overlook?
How long it takes. how long it takes to put that amount of muscle mass on your body to create symmetry, and how much dedication it takes over an extended period of time. Like, it will take years to build up a physique to the point where you can actually compete and actually be competitive. It's not something, at least for men's bodybuilding, mind you, like maybe for physique it's a little bit differently, but for men's bodybuilding it will take years to get to that point, unless you're a very natural, like, gifted athlete, excuse me, and you played, like, football or something, or Phil Heath, for example, played collegiate basketball. He didn't start lifting until he was like 23 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it's a little bit different for women, where, let's say, if they wanted to do bikini, like, you don't really have to be stupid lean for that. And if you can build your glute, like, a little bit, you can get 6 months. Like, I've seen people post, like, oh yeah, I trained for 6 months and I did my first show and I got first place. That's a very different world than men's bodybuilding.
Right. I think we're, as like a society, we're shifting away from like the bodybuilding to more of like the physique type. And I think, because I know that in the past few years, like, women's bodybuilding has kind of gone away.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I think we're going to see that same shift with men, where it's, you go from, like the Phil Heaths and like that type of bodybuilding to like the Jeremy Buendias, and like, people like seeing the physiques with the small waists, and, instead of these guys that are just these mass monsters that is totally unattainable.
No, you're absolutely right. And there's actually been a lot of drama at Mr. Olympia in the last few years with exactly this topic you're talking about. Is that, over the years of people pushing, the judges pushing and critiquing the scores, where the mass monsters are winning more and more, they want to have freaks on stage where it's like, they're 280 pounds, just like at 4% body fat. Like, the amount of insulin that these people are taking and human growth hormone that people are taking is making their stomachs completely distended, and they look like they have a turtle shell, like, in their stomach. It looks terrible. And Arnold Schwarzenegger has gone on record like just bashing these people. He's like, oh, okay, let's see you do a vacuum pose. Like, I'd love to see you do that. And they can't even do it. They literally cannot even do that. So they actually added a new category in called like classic physique, mm-hmm. which is like much more scored. It's scored much more differently as to what like the golden era was like, where they had better marks. If you can't keep your waist in line and you have a small taper, then they're gonna mark you down for it. That's not the category for you. It's more about those classic poses, and they still want you to be conditioned, but not to the point where it's crazy conditioning, you know what I mean? And it's more about symmetry and having good flow. And I think people are more apt to want to look like that than, like you said, like the Phil Heath or the Big Ramis or any of the people in that category. Yeah.
Do you ever see yourself doing another bodybuilding show?
Again, when I did do it, I was living at home. I had all the meals like as I wanted to. Everything was stress-free and very easy. I mean, I'm in my last year of nursing school, and I'm aiming to go to graduate school and do things like that. So because of how my life is, I don't see it getting any easier and having any more time to live. I definitely see it as being a back burner in terms of the priorities of my life. And that was a very cool thing, and I'm really glad that I did do it, because how many people can say they've actually competed and actually put themselves through what it takes to do that? But now I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. I like the way I look. I'm happy with my training. And so I don't really find the need to like prove to myself or prove to anybody else that like I have to win a sword or whatever it is. Like I'm cool with where I'm at.
So did you, when you did your show, did you, I think you told me before, you didn't have a coach or anything like that? You did it all just based
Solo,
on?
yeah.
Okay. So, that's pretty amazing too, because a lot of these people, especially amateurs, I feel like they start off, pros too, with coaches, and that they pay for that, and they pay all this money to try to do these shows. And do you think that has any effect on like placement or how people look, or do you feel like you did pretty well for yourself coachless compared to everyone else there?
Well, I mean, I don't know necessarily how everyone else, if they were connected to a coach or whatnot, but I will tell you that if you're an IFBB pro and you have a client in the show, it's going to look really bad for that IFBB pro if their client didn't at least place somewhat well in there. So like, and they all know the judges, and they all like are friends with each other and stuff like that. Some of them are. And like, of course, they're going to play favorites and things like that's going to take into consideration. I mean, could my conditioning been a little bit better? I mean, absolutely. If I would have hired a coach, I'm sure I could have been more on point with it and stuff like that. But I'm proud of like the product that I came with, the package I came with, for it doing it completely on my own. Like I own that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That feels good to me. But there's definitely politics that come into play when it comes to judging, especially at these like shows, the ones these are at too, like these amateur ones. Like, you know,
Yeah.
they're not as they're more willing to hand it out, kind of thing. And in my opinion, I mean, I'm not bashing the people; they also had to work to get to that point. But I definitely think it goes hand in hand with it a little bit. Yeah.
I feel like just having a coach as someone who's been through it before, especially for an amateur, you are able to absorb a lot from them. But I think it's good that, you know, someone like you were able to do the show on your own. Because I feel like a lot of people feel like, well, I can't really do bodybuilding because I don't have a coach and I'm in college right now. Like, I can't afford to pay for one. Like,
It proves that you can.
it proves that you can. You just have to do your own research. You have to look into everything. You have to find something that you're going to be able to stick to, because if you can't stick to something 100%, you're not going to see nearly the results that, you know, you think that you could get, and you're not going to see your full potential. But if you're willing to stick with something, which I think is where a coach really comes in, because you have someone like, hey, you know, come on, you're supposed to do this much cardio today. That kind of keeps you on track.
So you mean it's nice to have someone who holds you accountable for every single day. And like if you don't have the mental fortitude, like if you don't have the discipline to keep yourself honest, then it is a good idea to have a coach. But like the amount of information that's out there now, like I would say it probably is a little bit daunting, maybe a little bit overwhelming, but if you're willing to sift through and look at all of what's out there, like there's some great there's some great prep information out there, and there's some great bodybuilding programs that are out there available for free or on ebooks and things like that. And if you've never had a coach, if you've never done it before and you're new to lifting, I would recommend, before you even hire someone, before you hire a trainer that's going to be $90 an hour who has like some certificate that they took 2 quizzes online that printed out, like do your homework, do your own research. Like you'll save yourself so much money and get a good base, and then do your homework on the coaches that if you do want to hire, you know, look up that person. Do they have are they reputable? Like, are their prices fair? Are they giving you a cookie cutter program, or are they giving you something customized and tailored? And do they give a shit about you? Do they want to see you succeed? All those factors are something I would look into before hiring anyone.
Right. I always laugh when I see people selling programs online or whatever. This online coaching, it's like you pay $70 and they'll give you like a PDF. It's like, how many? That's all it is. You know,
Well, it's the same thing for everybody.
It's the same for everybody. It's like you want to find somebody who's willing to, you want to align yourself with, and they're also willing to help you, you know, individually, because
Especially for something so big, it's a two-way street. You know, you want them to put in a little bit of effort on their part, because if you're going to be putting in all this effort, well then, you know, if it's only one way, you're not going to get as much out of it. You're
Absolutely.
just going to be at a roadblock.
And I actually at one point tried to do some online training for like to help other people, and I didn't realize how time consuming it was going to be when I did it, because I didn't want to do cookie cutter stuff. So like I was designing their workouts every single week, so like 4 workouts per week or whatever they're looking to do, plus customized diet and nutrition with progress pics every single week. And like I was working on top of that and going to school, and I was like, I actually can't, like I had to tell the people, like, I'm sorry, like I can't keep doing it. Like I don't have the time to put into the amount of like effort it's going to take to maintain this, because everything was individualized, and like I had contact with them, you know, all the time. And the amount of information and the amount of time it takes to explain everything, because I wasn't just going to just give them what I was going to give them and like that's the end of it. I gave an explanation, what they're looking for, what are you trying to do by doing this, you know, exercise, by, you know, tweaking your nutrition this way. I didn't want it to just be just throwing information at them. I wanted them to understand why I was doing what I was doing. And the amount of time it took, I was like, yeah, this is not a good business model for me. I can't maintain this. So I had to drop it, unfortunately.
And that's the problem, is I think to actually care and be able to put the time in that it takes to care for someone's results, like you're going to go beyond what you're going to be able to make out of it.
Absolutely.
To counteract that. So
yeah, no, you put hours and hours into one person, and then you'd be like, oh my gosh, like I haven't done my homework yet. I haven't lifted myself. And like I was a trainer for a period of time too, and like that can burn you out. because you're putting all this time and your energy into another person, into another client, and you want them to succeed so badly. And it's like, well, you see them for 1 hour, or 2 hours every single week. And how many hours of them are they doing things on their own? How many workouts are they doing on their own? I mean, how many are they adhering to the nutrition you're giving them, the diet you're giving them? Like, odds are they're probably not, and then they're not getting the results they want, and then they're frustrated and they come at you like, okay, well, I'm not getting what I wanted out of this. And it's like, I know, I'm sorry, but like, have you been tracking what you're eating? Do you have a food journal? Have you been logging it? Like, are you overeating? Like, are you eating the right kinds of things, etc.? And then, so it can burn you out. And I never wanted to lose my passion for what I was doing in my pursuit of turning this into a career. Like, I never wanted that.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times, personal trainers will get into it because they have such a passion for fitness. And then, like their clients, they come in and the personal trainer's putting this work in because they have this dedication towards it, and the client's still trying to learn that. They're not to that level yet where they appreciate it. They haven't seen the results yet. So they don't have like the same level of understanding and commitment to it, and it's hard to keep that relationship.
Yeah. And that's another thing that would be a struggle is like you go in to be a trainer and you're like, all right, sweet. Like I'm going to train all these kids my age and like it's going to be awesome. They're going to love it as much as I do. And the reality of it is you're getting like 50-year-old, guys and girls who like, they don't really give a shit. And like, they just want the results. They don't care about learning anything. They don't care about, doing the work on their own. And it's like, it just kind of breaks you. You're like, if you don't care, I don't care. Like, it's so frustrating. Like, you're literally like not even trying, and it's so frustrating. So you can't. You got to learn to not take that with you, and to just do your own thing. And again, that's why and I did get to train some people that were younger and like are around my age, and like that was by far the most fun because it didn't feel like a job at that point. It just felt like, all right, I'm like this guy's training partner. I'm gonna like put his ass through the ringer and give him the workout that I want to give him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the style of training is so vastly different between a client who's 50 years old and a client who's 19 and wants to get big.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I feel like a lot of people get into it thinking, oh yeah, these people, it'll just be like my gym partner, whatever. I'll just go and I'll just give them like the best workouts I can, and we'll train so hard. And then the reality of it is that just doesn't always happen. You might once in a while have that client that's great, and you get to build that relationship with them, and it's basically your training partner. But the vast majority of the time, it's people that are later in the game and are trying to figure things out so that they can be more healthy.
And they can't do a push-up. You know what I mean? Like that's where you have to figure out where the starting point is and go from there. So that it's just like how teaching is a skill in itself. It's like how training is a skill in itself, and you have to have social skills and know how to work with people and know how people work like on a like psychological level to get them to perform the way you want them to perform and to be able to adhere to the dieting and things like that. And there's so many different diets out there that can potentially work, and people would always ask me, well, which one should I do? Or family members, or they'd message me, okay, what have you been doing? How should I do it? And it's like, what you have to do is something that is realistic for you or something you can adhere to for an extended period of time, because you can do anything for a month, but if you're not able to adhere to that and stick to it, then you're going to yo-yo back up and you're not going to have any results. You're going to have nothing to show for it. So what they have to realize, it's an adaptation to a lifestyle. They have to change to it and have to change their mindset towards their life in order to, get to those goals that they want to do. And whether it be for, health issues, like you have type 2 diabetes and, you've beaten the crap out of your pancreas. All right, well, let's dial that back in. Let's pull it back. Let's get you doing some cardio. You know what I mean? Things like that. Whatever reason people may have for dieting, like they need to have something that they can actually adhere to. Yeah.
And that's what's nice about like weightlifting in general is it's all, you gotta come to the point where it's all about you and it's how it makes you feel, and you're not doing it for anyone else, and you're not trying to, look at anyone else. It's all about how it makes you feel and how it makes you look and how much you want to enjoy it.
Yeah, you have to do it for the right reasons.
Yeah,
and the motivation behind whatever it is they're going to do is a big That's a big game changer. If they're doing it,
Well, that comes
just,
back to that mindset.
oh, absolutely, yeah. Like if they're doing it for the right reasons, that someone will be so much more motivated than, and my wife told me I need to lose some weight, so that's why I'm here. I'm just trying to do it to get through it or whatever. Or if they're like, actually, like I literally just got to the last notch of my belt and I realized I couldn't even put my pants on anymore, like, and I had to, size up, like, that's not who I am. I realized that was like sometimes it's just a little thing like that. Or they go to their cardiologist and they're 50% blocked and they don't want to have a heart attack. Okay, that's a pretty big motivator if you ask me. Like, or they get their cholesterol back and they realize that they're, predisposed to have heart disease, which is the number one killer. Like, things like that are what people should be thinking about when they go see their doctors. Like, okay, I need to make a lifestyle change. And that's what a lot of time it is, so.
I think there is, something kind of different going on in the heads of people that are going to the gym every day, not because they are, forced to by some reason where, they have to, like it's life or death. Like, I know I can speak for all of us when I say it's just like a passion. Like, it's just like something we love to do. It's a stress relief. It's, a chance to be more healthy. It's a chance to get like that endorphin release. And like, for some people though, they don't see it that way, and it's because they haven't had that relationship with it where they've been able to, get to that point. And so we see it just so much differently than a lot of people do, because for us it's like, sweet, I got out of work, I get to go to the gym right now.
Yeah.
When some people are like, oh, I really, like, they just don't want to go.
It's the last thing you want to
they're,
do.
they're sitting in the car for 10 minutes like, do I drive away or do I go in? It's like, for me, it's like, I'm like running to the door.
No, absolutely.
It's exciting.
The attitude towards it is very different. I completely agree, and I understand that. So, yeah, absolutely.
It all kind of just, like we said, it just depends what you want, really. And, I was kind of that way at first, was, like Garrett said, I was kind of like, oh, well, today's a maybe. But Garrett and I lived together, and, he was going every day, so I guess I'll go today. If Garrett's going to go, I got to go. So, and then I started weightlifting with Evan because I sat next to you in nursing one day.
Yeah.
I don't remember what class was, but I was
I
like,
think
hey, what class was it?
No, it was one of the meetings, the student nursing at OU.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'm going to the gym for this. And you're like, oh, I am too, actually.
Okay,
Like,
yeah, let's
all
go
right,
together.
get after it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how that all started. So, and, along with the process, I've always liked meeting people at the gym. I mean, I know we've met a lot of people there and a lot of cool people, and everyone's got their different backgrounds, which is really awesome to hear about.
Oh, yeah, it's a great place to meet other people and to make connections, and you know what I mean? I mean, I'm not the kind of person who wants to sit there and talk a lot when I'm at the gym because I'm trying to get after it and get some work done. But at the same time, like, you usually see the same faces and you just say, hey, how's it going? And through that, you've made some great friendships, and that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like-minded people. It's people that are there for the same reasons that they're there for the same reason I'm there, where that's, their favorite part of the day or whatever. And so it's easy to relate to these people who are just as committed as you are.
Absolutely. And I think another thing too is people, if you can stick to it to like a 6-week point where you've been going consistently for about 6 weeks, that's when the results really start to come in if you've been really getting after it, in my opinion. Like, whether it be your cardio, like your cardiovascular is going to get better if you've been doing it for 6 weeks straight, or your lifts are going to start to go up. And what I think is people can get addicted to those results. Like, okay, well, I'm getting stronger. I'm gonna, this is awesome. This feels good. Like, it's a routine now at that point. It doesn't feel like a chore. It just feels like something that you do. And if you can build it into and reprogram your way of thinking to, yeah, I have to, or like, oh, I don't want to go to the gym. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to the gym. I'm doing this, and this, and that's what I'm looking forward to. That changes everything.
I don't know about you, but Garrett and I mentioned it last episode, where, like, one of the first things we do when we wake up is like, okay, what time can I go to the gym today?
Yeah, you structure your schedule. Absolutely,
and that's definitely like an acquired thing. At first it's kind of like, oh well, I guess, I'll do it if I think about it or if I have some time. But like, that's one of the first things that I do. Or I'll text one of you guys, hey, what time you going today?
Right, and I think the reason some people don't have that mindset is that they're not sure enough of what they're doing, that they are like looking forward to it so much. It's like, oh man, like, I got a deadlift today, like, I'm not sure about my form, like, I don't want to, they're uncomfortable with it, so they don't look forward to it nearly as much. When I know we both, if someone came up to you and asked you for help, it'd be like, well, heck yeah, I'd help you. Like, you don't,
Yeah, it's a
you
no-brainer.
don't think any
Yeah.
less of that person, where it might be intimidating for someone to go to the gym and be like, oh, well, like, I really don't want to ask for help, but it's like,
No one
No
is
one
gonna.
cares, yeah.
And I actually thought about it today with Austin. I looked at him. I was like, "Hey man, have you ever actually seen anyone like bully someone or
Yeah.
be like rude or something like that in the gym?" And like, other than this one individual, I can't think of anybody that I've ever seen in my years of OU being like rude or like a dick or something like that to another person in the gym. It's a great culture. Like, everyone's there, in my opinion, to support one another and be like, "Hey, that was awesome. I saw that lift. Like, you got after that. That was badass." You know what I mean?
yeah, and I think that's how it is with most gyms, I'd have to guess, because I think most people are excited about weightlifting to the point that they would be willing to help somebody, no problem. Like,
Oh, I've helped. I don't even know how many people that come up and be like, "Hey, so I'm kind of new around this, but can you just make sure I'm doing this right? Like, I don't want to hurt my back." And I'm like, "Absolutely, I'd love to help you." Or somebody asked, "Hey, can I have a quick spot?" I was like, "For sure, I would love to." You know what I mean? Like, I'm all about it. I love helping other people, and so long as it's not going to eat up like 30 minutes of conversation or something like that, I'm more than happy to help. And I
Right.
think most people would feel the same way.
yeah, I don't get too many people to ask me. I think I got a pretty bad case of RBF when I'm at the gym. I pretty much look like I want to like kill somebody the whole time, but
oh man,
I mean,
it's just
people
the
that
intensity.
yeah, people that actually know me know I'm friendly, but
Oh,
it's just
absolutely.
like when I'm in that moment, I'm sitting there between sets, I'm like
You're
drilling a
you're
hole
gearing
through
up
the
for the
wall
next
with
one.
my
Yeah,
eyes, and it's
Yeah,
like,
you're getting in the zone, and that's good. It's good
Yeah.
to have that mindset. Yeah.
But is there anything else that you wanted to mention about like bodybuilding in general, or like any tips or advice that you would have to say?
To wrap it up, just do it if you love it. Don't force yourself. It'll come in time. Learn to love the way you look, and always be appreciative of where you're at currently. Because I think a lot of people have body dysmorphia, and they look at themselves in the mirror, and then they look at people on Instagram or wherever it may be, and they see, well, I don't look like this or I don't look like that. When in reality, look at your progress picture of 2 years ago and look at who you were and look at where you're at now. That's what you need to be comparing. Don't compare yourself to the other person that's on Instagram. Who gives a shit about them? Give a shit about yourself, and it's a competition within yourself every single day and every single set. That's what you need to be doing. I think it's a way healthier mindset, and since I've started doing that, I've been a lot more. I've been better with my body image, and I think other people should try and do the same.
yeah, and if you make small steps to improve every day over the course of, people don't realize it takes years to develop
Yeah.
the physique you want, the strength you want. So you got to make the small steps every day, and you'll see the differences.
You make that initial push, that initial few weeks, and then it's gonna be awesome after.
Yeah, I mean, if you get 1% better every single day,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It adds up. Just keep after it. Like, don't give up, and don't let little setbacks or little things hold you back, like, as an excuse. Like, oh, well, I'm really tired today. Like, I don't really feel like I have the energy. Like, you're going to feel better after you go. Just do it. Get in there. You'll be happy you did.
Evan, thank you.
It's a pleasure, guys.
Appreciate
it,
Thanks for having me
friend.
on.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you guys got any comments, be sure to leave them below. We have links to our Instagram where we promote this page, and
Thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it.
if Evan had an Instagram, we'd put him on there, but he's disconnected now, so
He's an old man. He's kind of grew up out of that.
I'm living free,
which-
man. I'm living free.
Which is good.
all right, thank you.